Hello, crafty friends. This is Anya General with Ink Paper Scissors. Welcome back. Before we jump in, if you love card making and creative ways to use your scraps, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a new video. This is the third episode in my Use Your Scraps series, and today we're making 5 fun and unique cards, all using scraps. Each card has a slightly different technique, and most of them don't require any specialty dies. Plus, I'll also be incorporating some die-cut scraps I already have, so we can put those to good use as well. So grab your scraps and let's get crafting. For this first card, I'm going with a simple and structured design using my Waffle Flower A2 layer dies. I am picking 3 smaller rectangle dies. You don't have to use dies for this. If you have a paper trimmer, you can just cut rectangles by hand. I started by choosing 3 different patterned cardstock pieces that complement each other. If you are ever unsure about mixing patterns, a little trick I use is picking a floral or busy print, then pairing it with a simple, geometric, or a solid or subtle pattern. This way, the patterns don't compete too much. After die cutting my rectangles, I played around with the arrangement before adhering them onto my A2 panel. Don't be afraid to move pieces around before gluing them down. Sometimes things look different once they're on a card base. Originally, I was going to add a butterfly die cut, but I decided to swap it out for some white die cut greenery. I love the way the white stands out against the patterns. If you have extra floral or leaf die cuts from previous projects, this is a great way to use them. For my sentiment, I used the Happy Birthday die from Spellbinders, stacking it 3 times for dimension, twice in white cardstock and once in pink glitter cardstock. This makes it pop off the card while adding a little touch of shimmer. To finish it off, I added clear gems for some extra sparkle, and just like that, our first card is complete. This next card is such a great way to use up small paper scraps. I started by cutting my pattern paper into 1-inch squares. You'll need about 12 to 15 squares depending on your layout. I like to choose 4 different patterns so that no identical patterns end up next to each other. Then I arranged my squares on my A2 panel, covering the left side of the card in a checkboard pattern. I will play some music while you enjoy watching me assemble the pattern. Once everything was glued down, I wanted to add a clean border between the pattern section and the blank space. I used Love from Lizzie peel-offs in a light green glitter finish. If you have never heard of peel-offs, these are strips with adhesive already on them. Love from Lizzie has them in all kinds of colors and types, from matte to metallic to glitter, and also different shapes, such as a chain link or a wavy border. I am using the pastel light green glitter peel-offs. But if you don't have these, you could just cut a thin strip of cardstock and adhere it in the same way. For the sentiment, I used the big Happy Birthday die from Fawn, cutting it from yellow glitter cardstock for a bright, cheerful look. I love how bold the sentiment is. It really stands out against the background. To tie everything together, I added some sunshine gems from Pinkfresh, and just like that, our second card is finished. Let's move on to our third card. For this design, I wanted a more organic, slightly uneven look. I started by cutting my patterned paper scraps into strips measuring about 1 inch by 4 inches. But some are slightly wider, so the design doesn't feel too uniform. If you like things to be more structured, you could cut them all the same width. Before gluing them down, I laid out the strips on my A2 panel, alternating their placement so some extend past the edges. Once I liked the arrangement, I started adhering them one at a time, making sure to keep 1/4 inch of a gap on every other strip. I will play some music for the assembly of my strips. For the sentiment, I found a Love You die from Memory Box. I die cut it twice from white cardstock and once from glitter cardstock. Then I stacked them for dimension. To finish it off, I reused the butterfly die cut from the first card and added some Waterfall Stickles for sparkle. Then I placed 3 clear gems in a triangular formation for balance, and this card was done. I love how this card turned out. Let's switch things up and work on our next design. For this card, I wanted to play with layering and dimension. I started by die cutting the honeybee bunting dies and 3D Rosette dies from various pattern papers. Rosettes add so much fun texture to a card, and they're a great way to use up scraps of specialty papers like folds or glitter cardstock. For the background, I used the Fawn quilted backdrop die, layering it over a pink cardstock base. The pink cardstock measures 4 1/4 by 5 inches. After arranging my bunting dies and rosettes, I adhered them down one by one, making sure to add a little foam tape behind the rosettes for extra dimension. For the sentiment, I used Concord 9th Just a Note die, layering it the same way as before, 2 layers of white cardstock and 1 of pink glitter cardstock. Because the sentiment is large, I adhered it to my card first, and then arranged the bunting die cuts and rosettes around it. To finish it off, I added clear gems, and this card was complete. I hope you're enjoying these ideas so far. Let's jump into the next card and keep the creativity going. For the last card, I wanted to create a vibrant multi-pattern design that adds lots of visual interest. I used the Simon Says Stamp Chunky Hearts panel die, but if you don't have this, you could create a similar look by die cutting small hearts into an A2 panel. Or you could use a different background that has large designs cut into it. I cut a 3 3/4 inch by 5 inch piece of copy paper and sketched out where my heart cutouts would be with a pencil and my die. Then I cut 15 small squares from my pattern paper scraps. This doesn't have to be perfect since they will be layered behind the die cut panel. Once my 1 inch by 1 inch squares were glued down to my copy paper, I adhered the chunky hearts die cut panel over it, making sure each heart had a different pattern behind it. I cut the chunky die heart panel down to 4 inches by 5¼ inches. Next, I layered the panel onto a pink cardstock mat that was slightly smaller than 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. I adhered everything to a card base. For the sentiment, I used the LDRS Love Stack stamp number 3196 and coordinating sentiment stack die number 8116. I die cut a few additional strips for stacking extra layers underneath the sentiment strip for dimension. And then to add some sparkle, I added clear gems for a final touch. And there you have it, 5 unique cards using pattern paper scraps. I hope this gave you some inspiration to dig through your stash and create something beautiful. Let me know in the comments below which card was your favorite, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more card making ideas. I have also linked some previous card scrap videos above that may interest you. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope you found this helpful. Happy crafting!